In this video lesson, we are going to talk about exponents, writing exponential form to expanded form and vice versa. Your learning targets at the end of the lesson, you can define base and exponent, and you can convert expanded form to exponential form and vice versa. Let's have a quick review all about base and exponent. So this is an example of exponential form. This can be read as 4 raised to the power of 3 or 4 raised to 3. Or in simpler way, we can read this one as 4 cubed. So in this number 4 cubed, 4 is our base and 3 is our exponent. Again, base is the number that is being multiplied. On the other hand, exponent is the number of times the base is used as a factor. If we're going to write this exponential form to its expanded form, it is 4 times 4 times 4. So we multiply the base 4 3 times since we have an exponent of 3. So again, 4 appears 3 times because of our exponent 3. So if we simplify 4 cubed, 4 times 4, 16 times 4, 64. Therefore, 4 cubed is equal to 64. So, for example, we have this number 5a squared. 2 is our exponent. A is our base because base A is the only number that is being raised by our exponent 2. 5 is our numerical coefficient. So again, A is our base since only the base A is being raised by an exponent 2. So if we are going to expand this, so since we have base A being raised by 2, so that is A times A. And also 5 is not being raised by an exponent, and that is why 5a squared is simply 5a or 5 times a times a. Okay, so let's have another example. Y cube. So cube here, or the 3 here is our exponent, y is our base. Okay, so if we write this in expanded form, since y, the base y is being raised by an exponent 3, that is y times y times y. So y appears 3 times. Okay, so I want also to tell you that all letters or variables in algebra, it is understood that they have 1 as its numerical coefficient. Okay, so we will talk about this further in our future topics. So just an advanced lesson, all variables or letters in algebra, they have 1 as their numerical coefficient. Okay, so in this example, 3 is the exponent, y is the base, and if I ask you what's the numerical coefficient, the answer is 1. Okay, another example. The quantity of negative 3y squared. So here, the exponent is 2, and our base is negative 3y. Okay? It is because it is enclosed in a parenthesis, and negative 3y should be repeated or should be multiplied twice. So this is now in expanded form negative 3y times negative 3y. Again, the base is negative 3y because it is enclosed in a parenthesis and it is raised by the exponent 2. Okay, let's have more examples about expanded form to exponential form. So this is an expanded form, negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So negative 3 here is being repeated 4 times. So this is the quantity of negative 3 raised to the power of 4. Okay? Again, you need to include this parenthesis. It is because negative and 3 are being raised by an exponent 4. So the quantity of negative 3 raised to the power of 4 is our exponential form. Take a look at this one. Negative times the quantity of 3 times the quantity of 3 times the quantity of 3 times the quantity of 3. Which number here is being repeated? Or which number here is being repeated? Okay, 3, right? Is negative being repeated as well? No, meaning to say, only the number 3 is being raised into or being raised by 4. Okay, and negative is not. Which means the answer is negative 3 raised to the power of 4 or simply negative 3 raised to the power of 4. Okay, you can write the answer as like this one or like this one. As long as the base 3 is the only number or the only number that is being raised by an exponent form. So take a look at the difference of our previous example. In here, even the negative are being repeated. That is why it is enclosed in the parentheses. Okay, the negative symbol is included in our parentheses because it is also being repeated. But in our second example, negative is not being repeated. That is why in our exponential form, it is not included in our parentheses because only 3 should be our base. Okay? So, we have here 7 times 8 times 8 times 8. So, as you can see, 7 is not being repeated. So, we can write it as 7. And our base is A, which is being repeated 3 times. So, we can write it as 7A cubed in exponential form. Another example, we have B times B minus C times C times C. So, in our first term, in this one, our base is B, and it's being repeated twice. So we can write this as B squared minus, in our second term, we have C as our base, and it is repeated 3 times. So 3 is our exponent. So B times B minus C times C times C can be written as B squared minus C cubed in its exponential form. Okay, another example. So negative times the quantity of 2 times the quantity of 2 times the quantity of 2 times x. Okay, is negative being repeated here? No. So make sure that negative is not being raised by an exponent. So 2 is being repeated 3 times. So we have the base 2 here, which I already wrote, and it is being it is being repeated 3 times, meaning it has an exponent 3. and x is not being repeated, so simply copy x. Okay, so we can write this as negative 2 cube x, or simply negative the quantity of 2 cube x. Okay, you need to be careful not to include negative in the final answer. Okay, you can write it as like this, negative 2 cube x. This is wrong. Why? Because if you answer this one, negative 2 is your base here, which means it will become like this, which is not our expanded form, right? So the only number or base in our original number is 2. That is why negative is not included in the parentheses. So I hope you got it. Next, m times n all over o times o times o. So let's proceed first in our numerator. So we have here our base m is being repeated twice. So that is m squared, because we have two m's here, and just simply copy n because you only have one n. All over, we have our base o, and it is being repeated 3 times. So our final answer is m squared n all over o cubed, or o raised to the power of 3. Okay, next, let's have the opposite, which is exponential to expanded form. So say for example, we have x cubed y z squared. Okay, so we can just simply expand each factors. So let's start with the factor, or the first variable, x cubed. So our base is x, and it is being repeated 3 times. So we can write it as x times x times x. Okay, again, we have 3x here because of the exponent 3. So we only have y here without an exponent. So simply just copy y. And we have the base z with an exponent of 2, meaning z is being repeated twice. So x cubed y z squared is x times x times x times y times z in its expanded form. Okay, so let's have another one. Negative 5 cubed m squared. Okay, so let's write this in its expanded form. So you need to be careful in expanding this exponential form. So take a look at this number. Let's start with this. Is negative included in the, or being raised by 3? No, right? So we can simply write negative, and the only number that is being raised by 3 is 5, which means 5 is our base. So we can write it as 5, or yeah, the quantity of 5 times the quantity of 5 times the quantity of 5. Okay, again, you need to be careful. Negative should not be included in the parentheses since it is not being raised by an exponent. Okay, and let's proceed to our variable. So we have the base m, which is being raised by 2. So it means m times m. So our final answer is negative the quantity of 5 times the quantity of 5 times the quantity of 5 times n times n. Okay, so I hope you got it. Next, negative 7 times the quantity of a plus 2 squared. Okay, so let's proceed or expand this number. So is negative 7 being raised by an exponent? No, right? So we can just simply copy it, negative 7. So our base in this number is a plus 2. Okay? It is because a plus 2 is inside or enclosed in a parenthesis. So meaning to say, a plus 2 is being repeated twice. So we can write it in expanded form as a plus 2, or the quantity of a plus 2 times the quantity of a plus 2. Meaning to say, we have 2 a plus 2, okay? Because the quantity of a plus 2 is being raised by a 2. So this is now our final answer. Negative 7 times the quantity of a plus 2 times the quantity of a plus 2. Okay, so again, be careful. Negative is not being raised by an exponent. Same with 7. Okay, the only number that is being raised by an exponent to is this, or the numbers inside the parentheses. Okay, let's have the next slide. Okay, so that is now your assignment. Please answer this on your notebook. Write the following exponential notation. So number 1 to 5, copy and answer. So that's it. Thank you for listening.